Both my parents are Irish. My dad has Irish on both sides. My mom is half Irish, half Sicilian, but she connects more with her Irish side, and she's always like kind of instilled that.
Gillingham.
Dublin.
Oh, I had friends that came from Ireland. They were great. We got along fine.
My Irish heritage is through both my grandparents. It's kind of a cool story. My grandfather was born in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. His birthday was March 17th. I always thought it was 1916, but now my mother's getting older. She's confused. She thinks it's 1913. And he was from a small town called Kilross, which is kind of near Limerick, but it's in the middle of Ireland. My grandmother was from Galway City, a place called Spittal. Dad's mom was Irish Catholic. Grandpa Rose was actually Scottish Canadian. And when he married an Irish Catholic woman, they never talked to him again.
There's a large dominant Irish influence in my family. We're very proud of it. When you go there and everyone looks kind of like you, it's kind of one of those weird things like, oh, I'm home. But then as you go in and you start to see the nuances that they have, like even just like the brands that they have or like the cars that they drive, or it's just a little bit different, and you start to realize that you're not Irish. You should still be able to say like you're proud of where where your family comes from. I have since visiting Ireland neglected to call myself Irish and more Irish American, or just American with Irish blood or whatever. But there is that weird thing that a lot of Americans with Irish blood like to say, oh no, I'm Irish, I'm Irish through and through, and it's like you're just not.
I know a lot of people who live in Ireland or are from Ireland. I went to high school with some people who were born in Ireland or Irish citizens. I visited some cousins in Ireland, and they always make fun of it a lot. It's, oh, you're Irish. You're not Irish, you're American. When you're in Ireland, you're Irish every day. You take it for granted, And when you live here in the United States, you're only Irish by doing like Irish things. You don't take it for granted. You've lost so much. So I think you do those extra things to maintain your culture, the cultural things and your heritage, Well, my grandfather, to me, recently died. Could be 10 years ago now. I got Irish citizenship through him, which was cool and difficult to track down. And I brought it out to show you guys. I'm so proud of this. I have an Irish passport. It has a gold harp on it.
Not many people know that about St. Patrick, or like who the hell he even was.
I was taught in school that he was like a mythological figure, not even a real figure.
First shock of the day, he was not Irish.
Actually, I think he was from France. Wales or France, I'm not sure.
Not only was he real, but that he studied in abbeys in France, and they have a record of that. They also have papal bulls making him Bishop of Ireland.
Now, originally Patrick was growing up in Romanised Britain, and there was a collapse of the Roman Empire in the 5th century. They never got across to Ireland. We remained Celtic and pagan, unscathed by the Roman Empire. 5th century though, the soldiers left Britain and they left an unprotected coast. The Irish raiders went over and they kidnapped anyone they could find. Young Patrick was kidnapped as a boy, brought back to Ireland and sold to a farmer.
But he was kidnapped and brought here originally. That's what actually happened. And got home and then came back. He got very on a religious mission, if you like, to free Ireland from paganism.
I wrote a song. It's kind of cool. I noticed it one day in church. We were singing this song called "The Breastplate of St. Patrick," but it said St. Patrick, like year 380. As the songwriter.
Well, listen, you don't need to worship many gods. There's enough, you're worshipping water god, tree god, sun god, male god, female god. He says there's only one true God. But there's 3 gods within the one God. And the Irish were like, what are you talking about? 3, 1, make up your mind. But he was a good salesman. So he produced a shamrock, 3-leafed clover, and with this he explained the Holy Trinity. And the shamrock became the unofficial symbol of Ireland, thanks to Patrick.
It's about our national day, so it's become more national day than a religious element to it. Having said that, people obviously who are religious, like my mum, went to mass this morning. I have more affiliation with paganism than I have with the Catholic Church, because to me that's the old Irish.
He was not wearing a green cloak and a green hat. Those clothes were not invented in the 5th century. Once again, Game of Thrones, he would have been wearing animal skins and animal leathers in the 5th century.
Usually I cook a corned beef and cabbage and carrots and potatoes for my children.
Like, for instance, on St. Patrick's Day, corned beef and cabbage, that's not Irish. That's something that comes from when Irish people were poor and they were in ghettos with Jewish people, and they had to share their cultures and share their foods. In Ireland, corned beef and cabbage is virtually unseen.
I have a son who's hilarious. His name is Lazarus Rose. And we have a family Irish band. We play Irish music. He comes down like with tweed pants on and a corduroy jacket, and he wears a little cap. So I bought him a shirt that said Mr. Lucky.
Everybody in the world is Irish for St. Patrick's Day. They all wish they were. No, not in the least. I think it's great that they want to be.
Wearing green, dressing up, going out, that whole thing. The older generations don't really care, and then the more immediate members of my family see the glaring, I don't want to say racist, but the glaring stereotype perpetuation that goes on, and they have a problem with it.
We've always had, the flags, and we've always worn green, but they would do it in a different way because it just, obviously, as times changed, it was more about Katie's and family and people meeting up, whereas I suppose it's just, as times change, people's come out to be, and there's always been parades. It's just, obviously, how much money you can invest in it, really.
They're perpetuating a stereotype a lot of the time when they're celebrating, and instead of actually celebrating the culture itself.
A lot of Irish people are upset by that, especially by, when bands have songs about drinking or so drunk you can't walk or talk. I'm not a big fan of those songs, personally. One of the songs I just wrote was about, it's called Seven Drunken Englishmen, where the English people are all drunk and I'm the sober Irishman. When
the dominant recreation on St. Patrick's Day, besides parades, is to just get blisteringly drunk, the stereotype that they're perpetuating is alcoholism in Irish heritage. Alcoholism is a disease, and when people kind of make light of it in the form of this vast celebration when they're supposed to be celebrating Irish history, it's just upsetting.
I don't want to badmouth anybody, but the bands from Boston I'm not such a huge fan of. Their lyrics, Kiss Me, I'm Shit-Faced, is about a guy getting so drunk that he shits himself. And I'm just like, he's played something 3 songs, and I'm like, John, really? No, just stop, That's the stereotypical crap that I don't, want to participate in.
St. Patrick's Hospital. These days, though, it mainly treats alcoholics. Right across the road from the hospital is the Guinness factory. If you ever fall off the wagon, you haven't got far to go. Very difficult if you're an alcoholic and the Guinness factory is across the road from you.
I remember when I was a teenager, and on St. Patrick's Day, you could drink beer in New York City on the street. I think Ed Koch was mayor. And there was a brawl outside the cathedral. And a kid got pushed and he hit his head on the curb and he died. So he was murdered.
As far as my grandparents, I think they just think it's cute. I really don't think they think so deeply about it.
It has a lot to do with that, I'm sorry to say. I don't drink, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't.
Guys like Phil Lynott, from Thin Lizzy, who was a real black Irishman. And it was always a famous joke. The mayor of Dublin was Jewish for a long time. So anybody can be.
So if they want, whatever way they want to do that, it's fine with us, So, as long as they're respectful about it, that's what it all comes down to.
So as long as it's done with respect, I don't think there should be any segregation in who's allowed to celebrate or who should be able to, but I just wish there was more of a focus on what it is they're actually celebrating.